Hello, I'm the Angry Spork, more than halfway through taking issue with Batman Eternal. Previously, we were teased with the prospect of Batgirl confronting Jason Bard for continuing to let Jim Gordon rot in prison for a crime he didn't commit. Batman lectured Catwoman on causing chaos for personal gain during Gotham's current hectic climate. Killer Croc was on the lookout for his young friend Jade, who was given to her uncle, Dragos Ibanashu. Dragos, however, wasted no time in handing the girl over to Mr. Bone, because she could lead him to Catwoman.
With the cover citing a turning point, possibly referring to the point at which Batgirl turned to show off some bat booty, Tim Seeley's scripted issue 28 actually starts off with Red Hood in a bar brawl, with someone declaring his name like he's well known. Though, for all we know, he probably paid the guy to say it and hoped he got the name right. Minutes later, he's walking to his bike, calling Starfire to tell her and Roy Harper that he's headed home, while they're off fighting aliens. Jason's done his favor to Bats and isn't interested in dealing with the imposed martial law, but does feel as if he's forgetting something. Star tells him that she's been through this before and says he needs to say goodbye to Batgirl.
Saying this, all while maintaining a constant look that combines boredom with disgust. Yeah, this is the Starfire from Scott Lobdell's Red Hood and the Outlaws, all right. But hey, now she has a better memory than a squirrel monkey.
The ginger crime fighter in question is still hanging Bard like a disingenuous piñata, saying he brought out the beast in the city and in her. Staying consistent with wacky pacing, however, we jump to Selina tied to a stripper pole at the mercy of Bone, aka Louis Ferryman. He says Catwoman knocked him around pretty bad because we didn't get enough of the whole Catwoman hurt me long ago revenge garbage from Falcone. Seriously, Selina even grumbles, not again. Even she's annoyed by this kind of redundancy. The only thing worse for Ferryman was how Batman saved his life by apparently reining Catwoman in. It created a moral conundrum for him that left him unable to sleep, eat, or kill, so he ended up losing face. To get it back, he intends to kill Selina in front of a paying audience.
Well, it's also the off-season, so I'm months away from getting my usual baseball fix.
Jade is present, trying to look away, but her uncle Dragos wants her to watch, to learn of the business in which she has legacy. There are no friends, only people with the same interests and enemies. That's when an elevator dings and the doors open to reveal Killer Croc. Jump to a graveyard where Flamingo is waking up. Captions displaying his alias, skill set, and weakness to distractions. Julia asks why they're letting him go, which cues Batman for anecdote time. When he was a kid, Alfred saw the rat infestation that poison and traps weren't fixing. He caught one of the varmints, tied a bell to its foot, and followed it back to the nest. No more infestation. Maybe that was for the best. If Alfred hadn't cleared those vermin, Bruce could have grown up to be Ratman. Same costume, but no cape, I wager. Flamingo walks back to his motorcycle, which somehow still works after that crash last issue. He gets a text inviting him to the Moffat building for the Great Cat Massacre, and rides off with Batman soon after, applying Alfred's concept to locate Hush. At the Moffat, where we see Tiger Shark as a front row seat. Wait a minute. Does he not see that Dragos is there too?
Tiger Shark was going to kill Dragos and his people for stealing one leopard cub. And we saw Ibanashu had stolen an entire zoo from the guy. Is he so interested in Catwoman's death that the great offense of having his future clothes stolen from him takes a back seat all of a sudden?
Ferryman commences his imminent murder by saying that way back when, in France, people would entertain themselves by killing cats in various ways. It helped to release some tension, since they'd just gone through some war and plague and whatnot. Likewise, Catwoman's death will be a catharsis for Gotham's troubled times. You know, the ones they're causing with their crimes and murders and such. Selina urges Jade to close her eyes as Bone raises the bat above his head, when a roar gives him pause. Croc crashes the party, threatening Ibanashu's life if he gets in the way of him retrieving Jade. In the fracas, Shark offers 10 grand to anyone that helps with skinning the intruder, so long as they don't put any holes in it, as he demonstrates by slicing one of his own gun-toting goons. Selina is thankful for Croc's diversion and reiterates her pole dancing lessons as she trips Ferryman, breaking his leg.
Yeah, I'm sure it's really common for strippers to trip people, and that repeating this reference from last issue has nothing to do with over-sexualizing an already sexualized character by implying she took her clothes off for money. Because empowering or something, I'm sure.
And hey, look, Croc is apparently bulletproof. Catwoman insists Jade help free her, even though the girl is incredibly scared of her uncle. This is the same girl who breaks into prisons and escaped Child Protective Services a couple of times, but she's not sure about what she's supposed to do because her uncle is mean. Granted, we've only seen him insult her verbally and trade her to another gangster, and nothing else, but somehow we're just supposed to believe that he's meaner than the man-lizard. Ferryman, his leg broken, crawls to Dragos and tells him that for leading Croc to his club, the only way to square their deal is to shoot Catwoman. The beating he took a while back makes Lewis incapable of accurate fire, so Ibanashu will have to get his hands dirty for once, or be throttled. Jade frees Selina as Dragos takes aim in the background. The gun is fired, and we see a close-up of a surprised-looking Croc. And if you thought this scene would continue after a 2-page ad for Gotham, you haven't been paying attention. Red Hood sneaks into Barbara Gordon's apartment bedroom, talking like she's there, only to find her decidedly absent. Her workstation is adorned with clippings and pictures of Jason Bard, one such photo stuck to the wall with a batarang. He and his helmet that somehow makes facial expressions leave as Barb's roommate walks in, thinking she was home and offering to get drinks, only to find an empty room.
Yeah, I'm sure that her having a batarang in her room would raise absolutely no eyebrows at all. Of course, I dropped New 52 Batgirl after issue 26, a few months before Eternal started, so if Barbara let her roomie know her secret, I never read it. Don't care enough to find out, either.
Wacky assassin Flamingo enters the Moffat, taking an elevator, only to be put out of commission again by Batman. Hey, at least you weren't doing 60 on a motorcycle this time. A goon is dragging Ferryman out of the chaotic room, who almost wishes Batman were there, which seems to amuse an approaching dark night. Sadly, the results are not so funny. Ibanashu lies dead in a pool of his own blood. A sorrowful Catwoman sinks her face into her hands, and Croc cradles a lifeless young girl in his arms. I got nothing now. The demons can have my skin.
This scene is a genuine emotional punch. You feel the kind of sadness Killer Croc is experiencing right now, even though there wasn't much to Jade outside some exposition to fit her into this story with gangsters, and we didn't really get to make much of a connection with her. A child is dead, even a fictional one, and that's still pretty sad. And it echoes what Penguin told Catwoman earlier in the series about the kind of Gotham Carmine Falcone wanted to create, where children caught bullets meant for criminals. What would have made this a lot better and make a bit more sense was if instead of dragging Mr. Bone in to make the whole revenge against Catwoman all the more redundant, they had just kept Carmine Falcone around and let him be responsible for Jade's death.
Elsewhere, Commissioner Bard seems pretty sick of Batgirl's catch-and-release game. Apparently, having moved from the top of the beacon since we last saw them, he encourages Batgirl to just let him drop, even saying he deserves it. Red Hood arrives, asking for the rope. Don't know how exactly he knew where to find Batgirl. Maybe he found Bard's urine trail. He grasps the tether and tells her that this isn't the way she fights the bad guys, not what she does. He, on the other hand, is fine with it. As he releases the rope, he says Bard's greatest crime was abusing the trust Gotham gave him, and he deserves to die. As Bard softly apologizes to the city whose pavement he's about to decorate, Batgirl grabs the last foot or so of rope, breaking a bone in Bard's leg, but sparing his life. B-Girl ties the line around a decorative spike on the roof, and Hood tells her that she was always better than all the Robins. You just proved it again. You're still better than me.
That's a low bar to cross, little red lousy Hood. While the moment with Jade was emotional, I don't feel like this lived up to its potential. Maybe because Barb looks angry but not desperate or confused, as you'd think one would be if revenge killing were so against her character. This seems more like trying to make Red Hood look better than he actually is than give us anything about Barbara, who this is actually affecting.
Back at the Moffat, Batman is aiming some kind of mini harpoon at Croc or something, while ordering him to back away from the girl. A bit aggressive, given he was cool to work with the man-lizard some issues back, but it could be because of all the corpses. Catwoman kicks the weapon out of his hand, insisting that he leave the poor guy alone. Bats pins her to a wall, asking what happened and saying he warned her about causing chaos. She breaks down, holding him a moment, saying she could have saved innocents from the crossfire. Though Batman tells her he's here for her, she heads out a large break in a window pane, reiterating that she has no one. Also, Croc seems to have just vanished, unless he's only out of frame and Selina's leaving him to the bat anyway, which really wouldn't make sense. At Spring Bridge, Jason tries to coax Barb to leave Gotham, but while she knows there's more of the world to see, she needs to stay. She tries to get him to stick around, but Jason says the city was never enough for him. While she clutches maybe a hanky, we can't really tell, it only shows up once, she asks what if there was more for him, an insinuation of something romantic perhaps, but Todd declines because, like she said previously, he'll never be Dick Grayson. He calls Starfire for a pickup and takes off.
You know, I can accept a lot from comics. Aliens that basically look human, regular people that know all sorts of martial arts, though mastering one can take a lifetime. Even realistically fatal exposure to chemicals or radiation giving someone superhuman abilities. But the idea that Barbara Gordon, or any heroine, would consider Jason Todd a prospective love interest is so far beyond willing suspension of disbelief, it surpasses the reach of the currently expanding universe. He's a terrible character, is what I'm saying.
On the final page, Catwoman visits her incarcerated dad, Rex Calabrese, using a different path than last time. For some reason, his cell now has a large tunnel that someone his size could easily fit through, though barred off. Heck, both Mario Brothers and Princess Peach could cartwheel through it all at once. Anyway, Selina attacks / tells him Jade is dead, and now wants his contacts. She admits that he was right. The Lion's daughter is the only one who can take control in the midst of chaos and assert natural order. However, this turn of events is kind of spoiled for you as you're reading the physical comic, because just before this final page, there's an ad for Catwoman's own title, which states that she's becoming Gotham's new Queenpin as of issue 35. No joke, this is just before the final page where they give the revelation in the story.
Couldn't have waited a week, fellas? Or even a page?
Issue 29, Ray Fawkes on script, sees Alfred Pennyworth hallucinating being bound and suffocated by a large creature that looks like he could be made of grass trimmings. Magpie, observing with Dr. Milo, says he's been like this since being checked in at Arkham Asylum the previous day. She asks if they should kill him or put him through the changes like they have others. That's where we cut about 100 feet below, to Deacon Blackfire still possessing Maxie Zeus, saying he'll use Jim Corrigan as a pylon to join the worlds of the living and the dead. After he spouts some stuff that sounds menacing but isn't important to repeat, Corrigan deduces that someone else must be in control. Blackfire tells him to be silent, that he sees fingers of the enemy above in Jim's head. "That is not a tongue! Those are not eyes! Are they? Are they?"
Someone skipped biology in high school. And recognition games as a toddler.
At street level in Gotham, where we glimpse an open manhole with at least half a handprint on the rim, Joker's daughter sits on a dumpster in an alley keeping someone trapped. The occupant, needing a hospital, begs to be let out, saying they'll do anything. Crazy Stitch-Face girl chides them for being surface people and says she'll let them out when they change. She spots a purple note taped to the wall across from her, which reads, "Go to Blackfire. Do what he says." Across the street, she sees 2 armed men outside Gotham Goodies. Must be one heck of a candy shop. Inside, Hush uses a device to alter his voice, reciting access code and spilling a vial of blood on the floor. A computer confirms the DNA and voice and reveals some bat equipment. to which Hush adds an armed explosive.
So Batman, the guy who is known for being constantly prepared for everything, who has technologically inclined sidekicks, has a security system that's fooled by a voice modulator. Well, maybe it's a very good modulator. Yeah, I'm just saying, it's weird how it's okay for him to be so crazy prepared in some situations, but something that is featured on kids' toys these days can bypass his systems.
Beneath Arkham, Batwing awakens underwater, wondering if Blackfire was stopped when his suit tells him everything wrong with it. Again, check the warranty on your gear, Luke. One bit of good news, though, is that the computer has identified Riddler's cipher, though it's misspelled with a Y here. A tendril creature approaches, and since he's not likely there to sell band candy, Batwing launches out of the water with an attack. Other creatures close in, so he launches his armor at them, which is admittedly pretty clever. He starts looking a little different when a garbled message from Batman comes in. It clears up for Wing to report that he's somewhere under Arkham, the place is changing shape, his systems keep dropping, and the earlier report that everything was fine was not him. By now, that call is a few weeks old in their time, so this revelation is a good 8 to 10 issues late. Corrigan is gone, legit monsters are everywhere, and to Batman's shock, Blackfire is set to return from hell. You know, the existence of which you criticized despite having paired Batwing up with a magic user and being yourself a bat-clad ninja who has aliens and demigods on his speed dial. An angel was a member of the Justice League of America, for crying out loud. A splash page shows Luke having gone through some pretty dramatic changes, looking more like the enemies he's been fighting off. In the asylum proper, Dr. Milo is dragging a woman who may or may not be dead, asking for Magpie's help. She may be off her meds because she says she feels like she's been on autopilot until now, thinking the pills Milo gave her were really worms, and that he only makes the patients worse, not better. Milo is fascinated by her confused perception of reality and tells her the ten-eyed man strangled her to death 3 weeks ago. Magpie thinks he's lying, and he plays coy. We see Bane watch them from his cell when Milo says Arkham hasn't been an asylum for years. Can you guess what it is? And then we jump to the streets of Gotham.
Dang it, and I was so genuinely interested to see if she could guess. Wait, it's another question that seems like it'll go somewhere but never gets brought up again, thereby making it pointless.
Batman watches rioters gaze upon a few burning cars that they probably set ablaze in the first place, and tells Penny, too, that things aren't adding up between Arkham and afternoon commuters going nuts. As silly as Julia makes it sound that Hush is causing traffic jams, all the problems in Gotham must be connected. She thinks he's being paranoid, but then cuts the disbelief when satellites, and Batman's eyes, pick up GCPD choppers approaching, armed with M196 high-rate machine guns and 7.62mm rounds, which must be pretty intense if they have to explain it. A cop announces to the citizens below that they're violating emergency law and are deemed a criminal assembly, given 60 seconds to disperse. The rioters apparently stood around for half a minute because after the 30-second warning, Bats launches a gas grenade at one of the copters. I'm sure they'll crash safely, and at the other, a blackout bomb, covering the windshield in black paint. He also leaps aboard the second craft to punch the gunman. Julia says that they'll just send more unless Bats figures out how to disperse the crowd. One thing at a time. He links her to Batwing, introducing him to the cave's newcomer.
And that's all it takes for some readers to ship Luke Fox with Julia Pennyworth. Because fan shippers will ship anyone at any time for any reason. Who needs chemistry, logic, or common sense?
Luke uploads the Riddler cipher, this time being spelled correctly, but they need a keyword to crack it. Batman suggests Riddler's name, Enigma, and it seems to work. Meanwhile, Joker's daughter lumbers through the sewers telling Daddy that she thinks she gets it. If she means a meaningful part in the story, she's way off. A ghoul approaches her, saying Blackfire needs her, and she crowbars the minion, insisting that because Daddy isn't the type to give orders, she believes she's been lied to.
Like when DC told us that Flashpoint reboot was going to be any good.
As he begins becoming part of the blood pylon, Corrigan tells Blackfire he doesn't know what he's doing, warning him about trying to pull off this kind of incantation without total control. Blackfire just cuts him off as the Specter begins to stir within the detective, which is what the villain wanted. We glimpse Dr. Milo, Joker's daughter, and Batwing, the latter of whom recalls the scattered fragments of his suit upon finding Blackfire. A splash page shows the ritual having a painful effect on Corrigan, an image of the Specter seen over him. Batwing wonders what he can do with 4% oxygen and various systems either malfunctioning or depleted. As the Bat computer begins decoding Riddler's message, Wing charges only to be stopped by Blackfire. A pillar of green light illuminates not only the caverns, but 100 feet upwards into and beyond Arkham, firing out through the whole building on the last page. Julia calls for Batwing to no response, as the computer finally cracks the code. Arkham is just a piece of the plan. If you can read this, you are smart enough to know our foe.
Wait, there's more. But you should buy the next 23 issues just to be sure.
Alas, poor DC quality. I knew it, Horatio. Issue 30, Ray Fawkes scripting, opens with Batman commandeering one of the helicopters he took down when he sees the beam of light shooting into the sky. Penny 2 tells him its location is 12K, Arkham Asylum. Weird, because in issue 6, Corrigan and Batwing met outside Arkham and it was called Rendezvous 6 Alpha. So, either one of the writers didn't double-check, an editor goofed, or Bats has a needlessly complicated system of designating locations. The beam fried the satellite in its path and knocked out the systems of a passing 737, with over 100 passengers on board.
We've been struck by minty freshness! We're going down! With my dying breath, I blame the Irish!
Batman orders the Batplane launched on catch-and-drag protocol, and Julia, though at first rattled by the number of people at stake, initiates it. She mentions the deciphered Riddler code and that she shouldn't have doubted the Dark Knight, only for him to brush that aside, asking if Batwing is still on comms. But she can't raise him.
If after all this, Julia doesn't have a new respect for what her father does, Alfred will have every right to smack her in the head with his dustpan.
In the caverns below the asylum, the ground is giving way and humanoid forms stumble about as Batwing and Corrigan are wrapped in rings of mystic sigils. Blackfire has declared his ritual complete, with hell rising so he may have his revenge. Joker's daughter is nearby, saying she nor Daddy planned this, then encounters someone in shadow, who signals her to be quiet. Now, if only he can signal her to no longer be in this story. As the humanoid forms pile beneath Blackfire, he announces the annexation of Gotham to hell, only to get a dissenting no from the splash page Specter. His redesign isn't too bad, though once again more black was added because someone at DC thinks adding black is the only thing that makes a character hip, or edgy, or relevant, and other words they don't understand. He separates Deacon from Zeus, seals the breach, and contains the spirits before retreating back into Jim Corrigan, now freed along with Batwing. Joker's daughter is coaxed by the shadowed stranger into the cave, claiming to have a present for her.
Stranger danger!
With the caverns crumbling, Batwing helps Corrigan to safety, leaving a couple of bodies behind, I notice. Jim notes that Blackfire's magic is gone, and that was all that was holding the area together, so it looks like the Spectre didn't think this situation through very much. Wing shoves Corrigan ahead, then gets his hands pinned under an enormous rock, panicking as everything comes tumbling down. With the 737 safely landed, Penny 2 remarks her failure to properly scan the now dissipated light, and that it wasn't light exactly, so I guess it was heavy. She detects seismic activity that's off the scale, and Batman sees Arkham begin to collapse in on itself. No!
Where will I keep my rogues gallery now?
Alfred sees the ground below and begin to crack, and tries to convince himself it's only a dream. Behind him, we see Bane and another inmate struggle in their own cells as the place comes apart in yet another splash page. Maybe it's just me, but I think that they use too many splash pages, so something like this doesn't have quite the impact it was probably intended to have. Though this is absolutely a scene that warrants the page, and nicely details the destruction as it happens. Batman traverses crumbling ground beneath him, even resorting to a grapnel line, and Penny 2 says she can't see the asylum on camera feeds. Bats tells her it's collapsed, and she can't believe they failed to save all those people. A few more panels show the destruction before we jump to a trapped Batwing calling for help. The armor is holding, but losing power, and we see some of the same malfunction notices as we have before. As the light from his suit begins to fade, Luke Fox begins uttering an Our Father prayer. Batman, still hanging by his line above the pit, is met by police ready to arrest him. He decides to take his chances with the rubble-lined hole that used to be Arkham, leaving behind a smokescreen while officers fire away. When he lands, he lets Penny 2 know the situation, and she says she'll have an updated map shortly. On the last page, Batman is greeted by someone else he probably didn't expect, Joker's daughter, with a dynamite new vest.
Yeah, I know, that pun was way too good for this character. That's why I didn't play the rim shot. Tune in next time, and hopefully Joker's daughter's bomb will only kill her and Red Hood and Harper Row and the New 52 Shazam. You know what? Just the whole New 52 post-Flashpoint deal. Just gone. A man can hope.